Hi guys, it's Danny. So the question today is, when will my orchid bloom? It's a Phalaenopsis. It's the middle of summer and for a whole year it didn't do anything. When will it bloom? So I formulated the question because this is pretty much the question that I get lately. It is the middle of summer. We have Phalaenopsis orchids that did not bloom for a whole year. And why didn't they? Well, if you say you have it for a year and it's summer, my best guess is it's off season. So today let's discuss about orchids which are off season. We purchase them in bloom in the season when they should not be in bloom. So when will they bloom next? So on the market there are some orchids which actually have a blooming season, and one of them is the Phalaenopsis orchid, which is the most famous of them all. Now this type of orchid usually blooms in winter, late winter, or the beginning of spring. Low temperatures actually induce flower spike production. Usually in autumn, a Phalaenopsis orchid will start to produce a spike. It will grow all throughout autumn and winter, and somewhere in winter or spring, depending on your environment, it will open the blooms. Now what happens with commercial nurseries is that they induce blooming on Phalaenopsis orchids, even if it's not winter or spring. By controlling the environment, mainly temperature and maybe light as well, they can induce flower spike production on a Phalaenopsis orchid whenever they want. And this is pretty much why we have Phalaenopsis orchids in bloom in stores all year round. Even if it's summer, even if it's full autumn, winter, spring, it does not matter. We always seem to find Phalaenopsis orchids. So I have an example here. I have a Phalaenopsis. She is in bloom, but she still has a lot more buds to come. And right now, it's the end of July. This orchid should not look like this right now. In the summertime, it should be focusing on growth, mainly leaf production and root production. So what should we expect with this orchid? Well, most probably it will open all of her buds. She will stay in bloom for quite a few months, and pretty much you might have it in bloom during winter as well. However, at some point the flowers will drop and she will try to grow leaves and roots. Now, why is this important? Well, Phalaenopsis orchids, like any other orchid, cannot produce blooms if they don't grow vegetatively as well. Without getting into too much information, the flower spikes will come from beneath the leaves. However, they need the space. You'll probably not see a Phalaenopsis producing a spike right beneath the newest leaf. Usually they emerge from beneath the third leaf. So let's count. This is the last one. 1, 2, 3. So they always need to have 2 leaves on one side to be able to produce a flower spike. So this is the flower spike I have now. It's coming from here. The next one should be produced from here. But behold, we only have 1 leaf right here. In extremely rare cases will Phalaenopsis produce spikes from beneath the first leaf. So in order for this orchid to rebloom, it needs to grow. However, it usually grows in summertime. And if we have it in bloom in summertime, it will probably postpone growing to the next season. Maybe it will start growing in spring or actually in the next summer. So eventually more than a year will pass until your Phalaenopsis orchid will actually produce a new flower spike. Now, the Phalaenopsis orchid is not the only one which can be found flowering off season. The Dendrobium nobile orchids are very common in stores. We can find them in bloom in summertime, in autumn, in spring, anytime. However, these types of orchids again have a blooming season, and it's usually springtime because in the winter time they do benefit from a cool down. Autumn is the season when they actually stop growing and prepare the buds. So if we have a Dendrobium nobile in bloom in summertime, this type of orchid needs to produce new canes in order to bloom again. So its schedule will be slightly shifted, and sometimes we can have this type of orchid blooming after a year and a half perhaps. It needs to get adjusted to your environment and the seasonal changes in your environment. Consider it a sort of a jet lag for orchids. Now, of course, in the orchid world we have surprises, so a Phalaenopsis can actually make another spike in the autumn if she has space. She can also branch out the existing flower spikes. A Dendrobium nobile can very well bloom in the summertime or produce another flush of blooms on older canes. There are instances where these things can happen, but usually knowing the blooming season of your orchid can give you the answer to why your orchid hasn't bloomed in a year. Maybe it's really not her season. Maybe she just needed to grow vegetatively first, and then she will prepare to bloom when her season will come. So for those of you who ask me why Phalaenopsis orchids did not bloom, think of the moment you purchased it. Was it in bloom, and what season was it? In the meantime, did the orchid grow any leaves, any roots? Because if it did, maybe in the autumn you will have a nice surprise and your orchid will create some spikes for you. So okay guys, thank you for sending in this question. Hope this is useful. If you'd like to see other orchid videos from me, simply subscribe to my channel. I post on a daily basis, and of course feel free to leave me comments down below if you have questions or suggestions for videos. I always check my comments. If you ever want to send me a letter, do so at the address you see on the screen or in the description below. And you can also choose an option on the screen if you want to visit my website orchidnature.com or watch another orchid video. Don't forget to rate, subscribe and all of that, and I'll see you all next time.